What's up, guys? Welcome back to this episode of the Road to Redemption podcast. I am, as always, your host, Cam Williamson. Excited to be here with you today, man. The last episode, I had almost no energy. I was still getting used to my meds. I have been about 3 days now where I actually feel like myself. I got a skating video put up. It was kind of low-key. I didn't do anything, didn't really push myself to learn anything new. I tried to get that kickflip off the dock, couldn't get it, but I'm excited. We've had crap weather here in Tennessee for like the past 3 days, so there's been no skating outside of the last 2 days. I was just in the house this weekend with my daughter. That's how my weekends go. So, yeah, let's just jump right into this episode. Today, I want to talk about really the analysis of where I've come from last episode to this episode and how I got there. I am still taking the Zoloft, so for those that were curious, I did decide to keep taking it and give it its time to run its course, and I'm happy I did that because now I'm starting to see the benefits without the side effects of every day my energy gets a little bit better. So that's good. Today, I want to talk about kind of the deep dive that I did. Over the last 2 weeks, I spent a lot of time, like I told you, just laying in bed, laying on the couch, really falling asleep anywhere that I ended up horizontal or even sitting up sometimes, just would kind of rack out. It forced me to realize that my real problem, and my father's told me this my whole life, tons of people have told me this, I have all of my issues really when I'm alone. And back when I was younger, my dad especially used to say, you need to learn how to enjoy your own company. Like you need to learn how to be okay with yourself. Here's the thing with that. Sorry guys, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties today. My microphone is acting whatever, so if you hear it popping in and out, that's why. I'm sorry. I have no issue being alone. Most of you know I'm alone most of my time. Like Monday through Friday, my wife works and my daughter's in daycare. I'm at home and I'm working by myself. I'm creating this show by myself. I'm doing everything alone. Unless you see me skating with my buddies, I'm by myself. So I have no issue being alone. I find that my demons like to play when I'm alone. And it's funny because when life is trying to teach you lessons, it presents itself in the most obvious ways sometimes. Not always, but every podcast I listened to, everything that was being recommended to me kept saying things around the idea of like, you have to take control, right, of idle hands are the devil's playground, essentially, right? When you're doing nothing, what do you usually go to do? Well, back when I was, and I've only found this through assessment now, back even 7 years ago, right, when I was in my first marriage, if I got free time to myself, that was the only time that I was allowed to really be me. So I would watch whatever I want. I would listen to whatever I want. And then that forced me to kind of feel like I needed to splurge that time, right? And that's why I wanted to get drunk every time or find some way to get in trouble or chase some impulse, whether it be go to a club I shouldn't have been at or whatever. But I was doing all these things trying to fill this emptiness void that was the true loneliness I felt in my heart, but that was because I wasn't old enough, right? And this is where I hope to serve you guys with my life lessons and the things that I've put myself through and can now teach. I found that in every relationship I was in, I kept jumping from one to the next, one to the next, one to the next because I didn't want to be alone, even though I have no time. And even when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time by myself doing my own thing. I didn't want to be without couple, right? So I wanted to always have someone to call mine in case I got bored, right? Now, if I got bored, or not necessarily even just bored, but if I started getting that kind of wild feeling or impulse control, well, I had that person to go to and fill whatever that void is. Let's go get some food. Whatever it is. And you find that as you do that, right, you find other people like yourself who is just doing the same thing. Well, after enough time, that impulse reward, I guess, starts to dim, especially when you're with the wrong people. If you're hanging out with the wrong friends or dating the wrong people, and you're only kind of bouncing dopamine hits off each other whenever it's convenient for you, eventually those time slots are going to become opposites, and you're just going to annoy the shit out of each other. Or one of you is going to get your stuff together and the other one's not, and someone will realize, hey, this is unhealthy, we're being selfish, we're not being true to what a relationship, whether it be friendship or romantic, should be here, right? And like I said, I've had to learn that throughout my entire life, right? Whenever things got still, I tend to want to ramp it up. And I think a lot of that comes from just my childhood, and when things were uncomfortable, when people would argue around me or be saying things that were bad about people that I cared about, or getting angry at me, I always knew that being funny or something else, distraction, look over here. Like, if you could just change people's attention real quick, you can usually get them to forget about, in short term, whatever is coming at you as a threat. I read something online that said, if you have issues truly resting and truly just being still, right? I can do it if it's planned. If I plan to meditate, I can meditate for an hour, 2 hours if I want to. But if I have things to do and I feel like I have the opportunity to be productive and I'm just not being that, that's when I start to notice like the addiction cravings come back. And I go, oh, it's quick to just grab a beer. I could grab a beer and do this. And I'm like, idle hands, right? I may be actively doing something, but if I'm not doing something that's fulfilling, i.e. working a 9-to-5 job or, just doing some random bullshit, watching TV for hours on end that's just mind-numbingly stupid, guys, that's what killed me the most about starting the antidepressant was I felt like I was going to be that way forever. And I started to feel that I kind of call it my rottenness, my bad-natured, not that I wanted to do anything bad, but it's just I started to feel like I did 7 years ago again when I was deep into addiction. I started getting that just dark spreading through my soul like I was dying, and I was like, look, man, I'm about to pull the plug on all this. And it seems almost like the day after I did that, I just pushed through that one more day. I woke up that next morning and came back to myself. So it may have just been some kind of fear, some kind of doubt that I had, that even subconsciously I was carrying and I didn't know about. But I've been really trying to dig deep and figure out like why was it that every time I would get it by myself, I would want to do something destructive, drink and drive, go to a club I shouldn't have gone to. Now I don't really do anything, right? The worst thing I do now, if I get into a negative headspace, is I lay around a lot. But I look, and even though the feeling was the same, my actions were different because I'm in a different place in life. I'm in a very happy marriage and stuff like that. But I looked, and from the first relationship I was ever really in, it was all about control because we were young. So if you're not controlling one another, you may, find that young kids have issues controlling their impulses as well. What are they going to do? They'll find someone more exciting within a closer proximity and they'll deal with you later. Well, that's what happened over and over and over in my first relationship, right? My first big relationship that I was in for like 7 years, right? So that was constant, immature drama, doing whatever. And that came to an abrupt halt in the worst way possible. Like an episode of Cheaters, rolling up on the person, making out with their ex, kicking them the fuck out, the whole deal, right? So that's how my first big relationship ended, was every time I was by myself, it was because they were out doing something against me. So then in my next relationship, which ended up being my first marriage, I kind of carried that because the characteristics fit. And early in that relationship, if I found myself by myself, they never were where they claimed they were. And when I found out where they were, it was often not good. So I just kind of, I think subconsciously started getting anxiety when I was alone because I just assumed that my life was being ripped apart at the seams and I just had no idea. I would find out on some random day at some random time that I'd been had this entire time. And I think one of the worst things you could do to a child or you could do in a relationship is make someone feel like things are okay when they're not. If things are, and sometimes it's just an immaturity, sometimes it's just you don't have the communication skills at the age of 16, 17, 18, even 24, 27. Fuck. I didn't at 27 even. To have the communication skills to go, no, I didn't have to at 27, but say at 25, 24 in my first marriage to even go, look, we're not happy here. We started this under bad. Honestly, we should have never started this. Neither one of us knew, we knew this was a bad thing when we got into it. It was never good. We had to force it the whole time. We had to manipulate and control each other and cut off our past lives completely just to make this work. But you don't have the wherewithal in those moments to go, oh, this is stupid. You're just kind of, I have always found myself around people who are fellow survivors. You're just surviving one situation to the next, to the next, to the next, until I finally found my wife who was like, hey, we don't have to survive anymore. We can actually start living. But my wife and I have been together almost 4 years, married almost 4 years, and we're coming to this place where life is just effortless. You don't really have to try with each other. You know what it is, but there's not that void there. And even though, and the reason I brought up the 4 years was it's still relatively new by most marriage standards. Until you hit 5 years, you're still considered pretty newly married. And even in this time now, I've never had that feeling of I had to wonder legitimately whether or not my wife was out doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. My wife is a very honest person. And I think that's because, she's not honest because of this. The situation is what it is now because thankfully I was sober for long enough right before I met my wife that I made a very strong foundational plan for what I wanted in a future partner if that was to ever happen. So when I met my wife and we put our foundation of what our relationship would look like together, that has always held very strong. The only difference is I haven't realized that most of my suffering in my life are really just the old wounds of my past that I didn't realize were actually wounds. They just felt like anxiety, right? If I'm sitting at home by myself in present day and I feel all worked up, not that I want to rush out and do something bad today, but that's what I used to do, and I'm just getting really anxious around this time, well, when I was meditating the other day, I just had the random thought hey, do you remember who you were 7 years ago? 7 years ago, at this time today, you would have probably been picking through couch cushions to find change to go down to a gas station and buy as much alcohol as you could. Because, your wife had just left for the day and you had to figure out some way to pass this time to try to not think about the fact that they might be out messing around or secretly hating you or whatever kind of bull crap I would make up in my head. But again, it was all by my own doing. It was all about who I kept around me. From the time I was young, I was a people pleaser. So I attracted people who wanted to be pleased. So the women I dated wanted to control the person they were with. Well, Mr. People Pleaser's good for that until he's not, right? And that's why they always say nice guys finish last. Well, that's kind of true, because if that nice guy just continues to always be the yes, sir, and that's really all they're trying to say, a yes man finishes last, not a nice guy. You should always be nice. But what it is if you're starting the foundation of every relationship and, your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever goes, oh man, I want something to drink. And you go, oh, I got it. And every time I got it. Don't get up. I got it. That's great, right? When we're new, we all do that. Oh, let me show them how much I'm willing to do this for you. I got it. Well, that's me. Now, that's because I want to be of service. I want to, assist you. I want to make your life easier. I want to make you happy if I'm with you, right? But then you come to find, I don't know, there usually is a weird time frame, maybe 9 months, maybe a year and a half, whatever that time is. If you're with the wrong person and they're not reciprocating those things, and it's not an ebb and flow, it's not an even balance, and that person's just taking all the time, and that first time they go, oh, I'd really like something to drink, and you're like, fridge is over there, bitch. You know where it's at. It's something like that, where then they're thrown off, and they're like, oh, what, you don't care about me anymore? And you're like, nah, it's not that. It's just you kind of took advantage of me. You stopped saying thank you when I got up and got you shit. You stopped getting up for yourself. You started just sighing and say, ugh, I'm tired, and assuming I was going to get up. And that is where relationships start to fall apart at the seams. But that's the kind of little stuff people don't talk about. That's the kind of stuff that if you're being raw and honest and you really look at who you are as a person, you'll be able to dissect those things out of yourself. It's not easy to do, right? It sucks, because you have to look back maybe at times in your life when they could have been the worst times of your life. They could have been very painful. But really, if you find the most painful times in your life, what you think is the most painful time in your life, and take a look at it in hindsight, as long as enough time has been passed since, you'll find out it really wasn't that painful, or it wouldn't still be as painful today to relook at it. It's more just almost embarrassing, right? You look at situations you put yourself in, you looked at ways that you acted, ways you behaved, things you said, situations you put yourself in, and you go, nothing about that from beginning to end was smart, right? From the way we met, to the things we did while we were together, to the way it ended, there were signs that we were walking through a landmine field the whole way. And then that just makes you wonder, is that a part of life? And it makes me wonder this. Is that a part of life that when you're young, whatever that is, whatever that mindset is of and I think it's all about how you're raised, and that will kind of play out based off of how you were raised. But for me, I was raised a lot by myself. I was alone a lot of times. I had to entertain myself. So I think that what I suffer the most from is dopamine addictions. I constantly have to find something to keep my attention, and if my attention is not kept, now luckily I've learned that that's good. If my attention's not on anything, well, just let it be on nothing. But before, I wanted to find another impulse: sugar, drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. And, and I still am kind of that way today. I wake up in the morning, 3 cups of coffee. Lunch, lately I've been having sodas, eating like shit, doing these things while I'm going through this emotional, analyzing. And I just noticed, I'm looking for comfort in all these subconscious ways, because my brain is going, no, you have to deal with this. You have to look at it and go, this is why you are this way. Now change that, right? You have issues while you're alone because back years ago, when you would be alone, bad things would be happening in and around your life. Acknowledged. Are you going to choose to continue that? No, right? I'm not. So I tried to do it by myself. tried to meditate, tried to do yoga, tried to realize that I've created this new life for myself. It's a life that I deserve to have. It's a life that I love. I finally met the person I was meant to be with, and I'm truly in love now. And there's none of those like weird, oh, what are they doing kind of things. Like, and now I have to learn, how do I heal, right? How do you literally change my nervous system's reaction during times like this? Not like this. Right now I'm doing something, and this is what I love to do. So my mind is fully engaged in this. But like as soon as these cameras go off and the editing's done and I've got 5 hours until it's time to go pick up my kids or something, like it's constant for me. I'm watching things to try to stay motivated. I'm doing things because, guys, the type of mind that I have, it has to have a target. It's got to have a target. And I think this came from being in the military, because I wasn't always this way. When I was 17, 18, and even when I was in the reserves and like I wasn't actively like doing shit with my unit, I noticed like I got to a place where, yeah, I'll lay around, chill, kind of whatever. Yeah, man, it's no big deal. I don't have anything I have to do, so I'm just going to do nothing instead, right? Now, since I've separated from the military and I actually went through a deployment and, went through the experiences that I had over there, I just noticed, again, every time in my life that I've had real trouble, I noticed that I just have too much idle time. And instead of trying to fight that and go, no, I should be able to have idle time where I just do nothing. It's like, well, that's true. We should all have that. We should all have that time. But be honest with yourself. If you don't need that time, if you have shit to do, if you have things you want to do, could be doing, are thinking about, but just not doing because you're just sitting in a chair watching this, smoking, doing whatever, well, that's where you're fucking up. That's where you're fucked up, because now you're fighting against yourself by just not doing. So then when you lay your head down at night, you go, oh, I didn't do anything today because I laid around feeling bad about what might be happening that's not happening, and that's been tested over, years and years and years, that everything's good in this situation. You just have to retrain your body and your brain on how to go, hey, we're actually good here. There's no fight. You don't need to fight. You don't need to fight or flight. You can just chill. And I was talking to my wife about it. I realized one of the biggest things I struggled with after joining the military was my ability to rest. From 2010, right? I joined the military and I went to basic in October of 2010. 10. No shit. October 10th, 2010. Was the day I think swore in, that was the day I swore in. And I went, and from day zero, they fuck with you. Like every time you're resting. If you're sleeping, if you're just sitting, if you're just chilling, you could expect someone's going to come up and scare you and freak you the fuck out, right? Same thing is when you're in training or you're training for like a War X. When you're asleep, that's when they're going to fucking ambush you and do all this crazy shit to you and set mortars off and dumb shit like that. Throws pop grenades in your fucking tents and shit. It sucks. It sucks. And for somebody like me, I'm not someone who's ever enjoyed having my sleep fucked with. I was not the kid that found it funny, right? We were all into the Jackass stuff, but I never thought it was funny to come up and fucking slap somebody while they're asleep, dude. You got to fight me when we get up then, because I'm going to fuck you up. You hit me while I'm asleep, or you wake me up and startle me, dude, I'm going to fuck you up. And that was before I was in the Army. I just have never been the one to think that's funny to come up, or even come up and be like, hey, man, the house better be on fire, or don't be coming at me talking with no bullshit while I'm asleep, right? So now, especially because I don't sleep well, it's even worse, because when I am asleep, I want to stay the fuck asleep. Now, my wife is amazing about that. But throughout the military, you're not allowed to rest. You never truly shut down. So you're kind of constantly on this heightened state of alert of like, is somebody going to come get me and tell me I have to come take over this duty that they want me to do? Or fire guard? Or am I going to have to pull some extra shift? Am I going to have to do this? Am I going to... Whatever. Is shit going to start blowing up behind me? What the fuck ever the situation might be, it sets in over years and years and years that just rest is something we don't do. It's just not for us, right? That makes it tough when you become a civilian, because then you have to either become sedated like you used to when you were in the service, or, I mean, what? That's where the real difficulty comes for people, is that little answer. We learn through caffeine and drugs and alcohol and whatever the fuck else people use to chill, right? Meditation, yoga, we'll name some healthy ones too, that people use to actually literally change the nervous system inside their body's reaction to what's going on around them. Whatever that little moment is, when you're trying to like fight your way to a rational way of thinking, that's what antidepressants do. They close that gap, right? So during the times when I get a little, whoa, what's going on? Ugh, it's too quiet around here, like that kind of thing. That's where I feel myself. And back, a month ago, I would have gone, oh, I'm starting to feel this way, and I don't know why I'm getting anxiety. But now that my medication is balanced out, I feel it going, oh, man, it's getting kind of quiet around here. That's all right. We got things we could do. And sail now. And now that balance that I needed is here. What I want to encourage you all with in this message, I guess, don't be afraid to change, right? Don't be afraid to become somebody else. The person I was last month was wholeheartedly and adamantly, and would have told anyone who would have listened, that I was so against antidepressants and there wasn't anything good about them. Anyone who was on them could try medical cannabis instead and guarantee, outside of a few things, limiting factors, that they would have benefited greater. I'm here to tell you the two might marry in your treatment. The antidepressant might take the other one away. Now, I'm not here to say that antidepressants over a long period of time don't cause problems. But it's up to the person, the individual who's in it, to constantly do the self-assessment. You can't start to feel better and then go, oh, I feel better. Let me just continue to do the same shit I've been doing. Because if I feel better and then I'm just still laying around, well, there's no reason. I have no question as to why I don't feel good, right? If I'm feeling better and then I'm out acting a fool or doing a bunch of shit that's really destructive for my life, I can't then sit around and go, oh, why are things not working out well? Well, I've done that. I know why. You only get woken up so many times realizing that you'd been drunk and fucked everything up in your life and go, oh, man, fuck. What's the problem here? Like, why does this keep happening? I don't understand. Like, when I don't have this beverage in my hand, everything's fine. But the second I put a soda in my hand and tip her back, oh boy, I have a few of them numbers, and damn it if I can't just not get behind the wheel of a fucking car or piss people off intentionally. Just be an asshole to people. Start fights and bring up repressed emotions and catch people off guard with emotional outbursts that make no fucking sense in the present moment, only inflicting what I hate the most, which is when you're dealing with shit that's unresolved under the surface of who you are as a human being, you let everyone around you think that things are fine until you blow the fuck up one day and you go, I'm totally rationalized to be flipping the fuck out like this because you all do this and nobody ever told me. Hold on, we're losing the camera. 2 seconds. All right, hopefully we still got it. And they were like, nobody ever told me that life was going to be this hard. And no one told you life was going to be this way. Don't copyright me, YouTube. I didn't even sound it that good. I didn't sing it that good. Guys, the gist of the story, right? If you want to sit around and say things like, I have anxiety, I have depression, that's why I am the way I am. Okay. Acknowledged. What are you going to do about it? Right? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to be anxious? Are you going to be depressed? You understand, depressed doesn't just mean sad. People are sad every day. Depression is clinical. It means things in your life are actually okay. They don't have to be, but there's no extreme extenuating circumstance around you causing this severe unhappiness, yet you feel completely hopeless in all facets. It's a medical thing. It's the way your brain is wired through past experiences and or your reactions to them and your continued reactions to them inside, not voluntarily, but the way your nervous system reacts to the environments and the actions around you, that you can have a chemical imbalance. If you have the imbalance, right, fix it. Try things. Try everything that you're comfortable with. Look into shit. Be willing to change. Here's the question, and I want to leave you all with this heavy-hitting question, right? And I had to answer this myself before I was willing to actually take the antidepressant. It's a hard question to ask, so take time. As soon as I ask the question, you can pause the video. Really think about this shit, because it's tough, man, and it hurts if you really sit and think about it. Would you be okay if you completely changed your life? Meaning, you managed your anxiety. You managed your depression. You got your sleep schedule together. You started making a plan towards something that you actually care about, not just a 9-to-5 job that you do because you do it, because it makes money. But if you did all those things, or you were at least actively working towards each one of those things, not just making an excuse to stay identified with it, would you be okay with that? I'm going to be honest. When I first asked myself that question, I was like, no, it takes away all my bullshit excuses. It takes away everything that I have that makes me comfortable. When I'm unhappy or I'm uncomfortable, I make good food. I do this. It's usually when I'm seeking comfort when I'm feeling bad for myself. Very rarely do I seek comfort after I do something, or after I'm having a good day, do I go, oh, hey, let me actually try to take it down a couple notches? No. Would you be okay if you got it together? Sometimes we self-sabotage so hard because we're afraid of what would happen if we got it together. If you got it together, that's unparalleled ground for us. We don't know what that's like to get it together. To feel good, have your chemical balances work in the way they should. And guys, I'm telling you from someone who's been in it hard. Anxiety, depression, PTSD, bipolar, everything, name it. I'm the guy who waited and was like, if I just felt normal, if I just had a base even where I'm not feeling of every sensation in my chest, going down my arms, in my neck, in my legs, the shaking in my hands, the constant dizzy spell. If I could just get outside my own fucking skull for a second, maybe, just maybe, I'd have the chance to get my shit together. So then, meds come in, which I put off for years, which is why I continued to struggle. Because I wanted to be hard-headed and stick to my ways, which is fine. That's my right. But it's also my right to lay in a bed and be fucking depressed, too, if I'm not willing to do the things necessary to fix the problems that I have. That's the other thing. You have to accept that you have the problems you have. And don't just say them. Yeah, I have anxiety, I have depression. That's great, whatever. Take that. Take that for what that is. You have that. Okay, do something about that now. Figure it out now. If you had cancer, you wouldn't just go, well, I got cancer. Fucking shit. You would go, well, what do I have to do to treat that? And then they would immediately tell you, your mindset going through this process is going to be the most important thing. If you don't believe you can get better, you got no shot. Right? Same thing. Don't self-sabotage yourself, obviously, and look for the ways in which you may be doing that. Self-sabotage comes usually in our habits, in our routines, the things that come easily to us, but tend to leave us having to explain ourselves for whatever reason. Look for what that is in your life. Don't try to find it in other people, even if they offer, if people are trying to fill all your voids and stuff, that's great. It feels good and stuff for a little bit, but that one time that they don't, or like you expect them to do that thing and they don't, and you take it personal, you're just going to realize that no person, thing, or substance is ever going to truly fill that void, because even if you take the meds and balance yourself right and chase your dreams and have an amazing family, there's still going to come that time when you're laying in bed and the lights are off and it doesn't matter what size TV you have, what car you drive, what your spouse looks like, or how big, the pool is in the backyard. Everything's still and everything's quiet, and it's you and it's your thoughts, and it's the way you feel about the life you're living. And can you live with that being the case? Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Are you making positive change for or to others in others' lives, right? That has nothing to do with a dollar amount. Yes, if you have a lot of money, you can help a lot more people, that's for sure. But you can learn to be happy exactly where you are by just realizing that you're at least not where you used to be. You're not reacting the same way. Or you could be one step ahead of where you were yesterday by just realizing that yesterday had problems. By just addressing the fact that yesterday had problems in it, you're already one step ahead. Just be dedicated to addressing the problems once you identify that they're there. All right, guys. I love you very, very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please tune in everywhere, audio platforms. Check us out on the YouTube channel. Hit me up on Instagram. Always love talking to you guys in the DM boxes. And we'll check in with y'all. Check out www.roadtoredemptionpodcast.com. Grab our new merch. We got the Gangster Love line up now. Love you guys so much. We'll see you later.